In today's tutorial, I'm going to be demonstrating lino cutting and lino printing. This is the process I want you to use for your final product for this term. In order to do this, you'll need a piece of lino, a lino cutter, a lino roller, a piece of plastic or a paint tray, and some printing ink. So you might remember from my research board that I was looking at manga art. So for my character, I've taken a fox and used my knowledge of manga style to create this manga fox. I'm just sketching onto my piece of lino using a Sharpie pen, the basic outline, and then I'm using the lino cutter to start cutting away everything that I want to remain white on my print. So I'm starting with the outline of the fox here, because this outside part, obviously I don't want to be coloured, it will be white. I want the paper to stay free of any ink. You have to be really careful with these cutters. It is really easy to cut yourself and give little nicks to your fingers. So you'll notice I tend to cut away from myself and turn the lino so that whenever I need to cut towards myself, I'm just rotating the image and then again cutting away from myself. You don't want to jab the cutter deep into the lino. You want to make fairly shallow cuts. If you jab it straight down, that's when it tends to get stuck in the lino. I changed to a smaller head here because, as well as the background wanting to stay white, the whites of the eyes need to be removed as well. So these are really small intricate parts of the lino. So I'm cutting away all the parts that I need to stay white on the paper. So once I've done the eyes, I'm obviously going back to the little fur around his mouth. Now what you'll notice I'm doing is leaving a border between the white fur and where the black line is indicating the fur. So the reason I'm doing this, and I'll do this throughout the print, is because my final layer of ink is going to be a black outline. So I need to make sure I create a border on each element of the picture. Now this is quite complicated doing layers of a print, but you can do a single colour print if you want. It is time consuming, it is going to take you a while. I think I've sped up this process on the video by 8 times. So if the video was 12 minutes long, obviously times it by 8 and you'll get a good idea of how long I spend on this print. You might want to take breaks from it as well. If you've never done lino printing before, it can start to make your arms and wrists ache a little bit, so feel free to stop and start. So I've now removed all the aspects that I want to remain white. I'm going to trim away the excess lino. The first colour I'm going to work with is orange, so I'm creating this by mixing my red and yellow printing ink. Now the reason that I've gone with this colour first of all is because the majority of my image is going to be orange. So basically when I cover the lino in this ink and use it to print onto the page, everything will be blocked in orange apart from what I've cut away already, and that will just show the white of the paper through. So ideally you've got a paint palette like this, or just a small piece of plastic or perspex for you to roll out the ink onto, and this allows you to mix the colours together but also to get a nice even distribution of the ink onto your roller. It doesn't matter if you've got a smaller or a larger roller than this, any will do. You should find that the ink makes a nice sticky sound. It's a nice thick texture which makes it great for printing. Once you're happy with the ink, you then need to roll it out onto your lino evenly. And if this is a sample piece, you could print it straight onto standard paper or in your sketchbook. Now I would recommend, especially if you're doing layers like I am with different colours, you're going to want to print a few different prints just in case you make any mistakes as you go along, so you need spares to be able to work on. So I'm just working on an A4 plain paper. This is just standard paper I got from my printer, it's not printing paper. And then you can either do it this way, where you place the paper on top of the stamp and transfer the ink, or you can do it the other way, where you turn the stamp over and print it straight onto the paper. Like I say, well worth printing a few, maybe 5 or 6. And this makes the most of the fact that you've created a stamp. Obviously, with printing, the idea is that you can replicate the same image over and over again as well. As much as you might not want to as well, it's really good practice to get into the habit of washing up your equipment in between uses, especially with the lino print you've just made. If you let the paint dry onto it, it's going to make it really difficult to wash it off later, and also could affect how effective it is. So the paint could perhaps block some of the crevices and your print won't be as clear next time. But certainly if you're using more than one colour ink, you're going to need to wash up as soon as you've finished printing enough copies on each layer. So my orange base is done, which means I now need to remove anything on the lino print that I want to remain orange. So I'm cutting away everything that I want to keep the colour orange, so that on the next print that isn't overlapped with the next colour ink. So I've decided that I'm going to be working on the pink ears next, because it's better to work with lighter colours first and work towards your darker colours, because your darker colours will obviously overshadow the lighter ones. So I'm removing all the orange fur, and I'm actually not randomly cutting the lino. I'm kind of moving it in the direction of the fur, because as you'll see from the printing, some of those details will come out anyway. So I'll remove the orange aspects of the print, and the next colour I'm going to be making up is the pink to create the ears. So as the pink is quite localised just to the top of my print, I don't need to smother my whole piece of lino in the colour pink. I'm just concentrating on the top and transferring it over. The trickiest part with these steps now is just lining up your stamps so that they match up, which is again why it's handy to have spares, because some will come out better than others. Now, what I actually do here at this point is make a big mistake. So I know that I want to work on the blue next, and I started automatically cutting out the blue of the eyes. And I just showed, I've kept this in to show you that actually it's easy to make this mistake. What you need to do is remove the colour you've just printed. So actually what I needed to do was remove the pink for the ears, and the blue will be coming onto the lino next. There is a fix for this, and obviously I'll show you because I've made the mistake. You can see that the eyes are uneven where I was trying to remove the blue, and that was too soon for me to be doing that. So mistakes can happen, and even I make them, so don't get too disheartened if things don't go quite right. There are always ways around it, and we can improvise. So I'm just printing the blue of the eyes on, and it doesn't matter that the blue is transferring in other places because this will be covered on the last colour. And this is my little cheat, so I cut away some of the blue that I didn't mean to, so I'm just going to fill it in using the same blue off the palette so it matches perfectly, and just use a paintbrush to dab it in. And I'm not painting it too neatly, I'm trying to dab it so that it looks like it has the same effect as the print did, and hopefully it hides my mistake. I think I got away with it. And now finally it's going to be black, so I'm removing everything else, so the blue of the eyes, and then I'm just going to be tidying up the border, so everywhere you should be able to see the border still, and that will be what takes the black ink and creates a nice black outline as well as the tips of the ears for my little fox. And this final stage really sort of neatens it up and smartens up the final image. And there we go, that's the end result. Once you've created your prints, especially if you have spares, it might be an idea to put a couple of them alongside your research page or design page within your sketchbook.